So what did you miss at Jubilee today? Well, you missed a strange collection of stories. You missed some of last week's lection, um, John of Patmos, the book of Revelation, and a new heaven and a new earth, the vision of a new heaven and a new earth. And from the book of Acts, Peter's vision of a breakdown of all the things that divide us. Peter's vision of, well, we saw it in modern terms almost as a quilt of patches of different pieces brought together. This idea that we needn't separate ourselves, that in fact we need to come together. And we heard from John's Gospel, Jesus' admonition that we should love one another. But we started, strangely, with our drama group sharing with us the story of Samson and Delilah. Samson, who is born into war, but is born to a woman who desperately wants to have a child and promises that she will keep him pure, that he will not touch a dead body, that he will keep a kosher diet, that he will not cut his hair, a variety of things. And of course, as we hear the story of Samson, we discover that ultimately he's tricked and he breaks one of those vows. His hair is cut and he loses his strength. As his hair grows back and his faith in God endures, he is able to defeat the enemy, but at great cost to himself. In fact, the drama group, many of them young, wondered what that story could possibly mean. They searched for a moral, and the best moral they could come up with was hair today, gone tomorrow. But I was glad to have that story shared because it reminds us that purity codes weren't just a list of things that good Jews or good faithful people followed. They were part of the culture. So in this early community, this Christian community that Peter engages, there were those who were raised Jewish, who knew the story of Samson well, the story of Samson and Delilah. And it was part of their culture. And so they knew there were things you should do and shouldn't do. But coming into this new Christian community were also people who had no idea who Samson was. They didn't know the stories. They didn't know the rules. They didn't care about the rules. They didn't know that circumcision mattered or that eating food given to idols could be a problem. They had no idea. In fact, as far as they were concerned, Jesus covered everything, and they didn't have to follow anything. So here you have these two groups being Christian together, drawn to Jesus, and yet coming from very different backgrounds. And that's where Peter's vision is so powerful. That nothing should be considered unclean or unholy that is created by God. And as all is created by God, the food that we eat, but also the people that we share space with, we should recognize that we are meant to be together. But John of Patmos, in the letter we call Revelation, takes it a step further, and he imagines such a radical shift that in fact it's a new heaven and a new earth. The old passes away. And we wonder how this is to happen. How could we possibly come together and overcome divisions? How could we actually have a new world, a new heaven, a fundamental change? And that takes us back to the gospel, and we're reminded that it is by love. Love is where these visions come from. Love is what makes it possible to move a vision into reality. But it's the love of God. It's the love of the whole community. It's not the love that we offer just on our own. On our own, our love isn't going to be enough to change the world. But if we dare to love with others, if we dare to love with God, if we have our faith in God's love, then in fact, a new heaven and a new earth, it's not only possible, it's inevitable. A breakdown of divisions, not only possible, but inevitable. And that's what we shared today at Jubilee. That's what you missed, but it's worth thinking about, wondering about, and it's worth coming and joining us and sharing your thoughts about it. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, but hopefully someday soon, because we'd love to see you. Thank you. God bless.